So when you say your parents were strict, they set up rules and then they enforced them. Were they consistent?
Consistent, all the time. Mama would say, wait till your father comes home, okay? And she never did chase us around with the belt, you know.
Did you ever try to make a deal with her? Don't tell Daddy?
Oh, well, at one point when I was getting older, I remember her coming after me, and so I ran into the bathroom, and I yelled out the bathroom window, "Don't kill me, don't kill me."
So that Mr. Yonoshige
She
would hear that?
or anybody in the neighborhood, and my mom said, "Stop it," you know.
Even at a young age, this comedian was playing to an audience. At that time, the audience was a Paoa neighborhood, Mr. and Mrs. Yoneshige, Mrs. Makaiwa, and Mrs. Lee, all making up the rich cultural pie that influenced Frank Wilcox Napua Kekaulike De Lima Jr.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox is Hawaii's first weekly television program produced and broadcast in high definition.
Aloha, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Growing up, all of us knew of a class clown, the girl who always had a new joke, or the boy who would turn a missed step into an entire Dick Van Dyke routine. For these comedians of our lives, it always seemed to come so easy, like they were born to be funny, to be entertaining. For Frank De Lima, the DNA of comedy appeared at an early age, but at first, his upbringing and his faith led him in other directions.
When did you know you were funny? How old were you?
Well, you know, sometimes you don't realize you're funny.
But what age were you when you knew people were saying, "Hey, Frank, you're so funny"?
Well, that was when I was in high school, I guess.
Not earlier? Not when
No.
you were a sixth grade rascal?
No, I wasn't a rascal, that's why, because I was shy. And also the nuns were very strict, so you behave. So my shyness and the strictness.
What about your family? Your family?
Oh, yeah, we used to have good fun, clown around, but it was all of us. And so I didn't stand out, you know, and I didn't even know, I wasn't even aware of the fact that I was funny. But I jumped in, and we just had a great time. After dinner, we would wash dishes, and then we all go in the living room and get the washboard with the metal spoons, and one would play that, one would play the washboard, one would play the pot covers, one would hit the pot. My daddy would play ukulele, and my mom would play piano. And we just, you know, just do songs. And then I would clown around. I would do my Japanese impersonation of Radio Koho, and they'd laugh. And so, you know, it all developed like that.
Tell me about your upbringing. Who were your parents? What were they like? Where were you living?
Okay. Well, I was born at 11:05 at night at St. Francis Hospital.
Sounds like the beginning of a story.
Yes. And I was baptized at Blessed Sacrament Church in Pauoa Valley. I was raised in Pauoa Valley. I went to kindergarten at Pauoa Elementary School. And my first babysitter, I was 3 years old, with Mrs. Lee. And I remember going to her house every day, and her aunt used to go and visit her, and they start talking in this dialect. At the time, I didn't even know what dialect was. I was just a little kid, but I started imitating it. You know?
So you started early with that ear, didn't
Yeah.
you? What were your parents like? Were they funny?
My mom was more the animated type of funny. My dad was more the subtle humor.
Oh, he'd have the zingers?
The zingers. His face was like, you know, pan face, and then he'd say something that was hilarious.
Now, your dad was Portuguese?
My dad was half Portuguese. He was Hawaiian, English, and Hawaiian, Chinese, English from grandma. And then his father was half Portuguese. I mean, full-blood Portuguese.
And your mom?
My mom is half Portuguese, and her father was Irish, Scotch, English, and Spanish Portuguese from the mom.
So you grew up with lots of ethnic mix,
Yeah.
but everybody says Frank's full Portuguese.
Portuguese, you know, and it's because of the growing up with, you know, going to the Punch for Holy Ghost, and just growing up in that whole, and my mom pulled the Portuguese side, you know, more.
What does that mean?
Well, she did everything Portuguese. You know?
Like doilies on the back of the car seats? And,
not in the car seats, but in the house
couches?
we had doilies, And she cleaned once a week where everything had to get out of the house, and then we had to shampoo and whatever it was, and rinse down the furniture. So she had that same style of
Did she put
once a week.
plastic runners on the carpet?
No, she didn't go that far. And she took the plastic off the furniture too. But it was once a week general house cleaning, and everybody had to be home. And,
Your dad too?
Everybody.
Okay,
We
everybody
all helped.
cleaned.
Everybody cleaned. Screens, windows.
Every week.
Walls, every week.
Do you still do that?
No. I live
Free
in
at last.
I live in a studio apartment, see, and so I pick up and I, sweep or whatever. Not much to clean. And once a week I do, do a general around the place. But only me, so it's fine. Any rate, so Mom malasadas,
On
sweet bread.
Fat Tuesday, is that when she made her malasadas, or
but,
was it year round?
sometimes every so often, like Halloween, she would make for the kids when the trick-or-treaters. So they would go in line and they pick up their malasadas and hot chocolate, and then they go on, So that's what she did then. And sweet bread, and Easter Sunday, but throughout the year, but specifically, we look forward to Easter Sunday where she makes vingadoos, pork, and scrambled eggs.
But vingadoos you don't just make on Sunday, right? First you have to marinate it,
Yeah,
and you
she
get
does
vinegar
and
throughout the house.
That part I didn't know. I don't remember too much about the preparation of vingadoos, but it did happen where it was fried, and we had that. Dad had blood sausage, but we all went, ooh, blood sausage, so we didn't want to eat that. But my mom made it for David. The Punch Bowl Holy Ghost would deliver the meat and the wine and the bread. Early in the morning, I remember the truck coming by on Easter morning.
This exposure to faith in Frank De Lima's childhood had a profound effect on him. The structure and celebration of the Catholic religion in the De Lima household gave Frank a direction to follow in life. And yet, there was still a part of Frank De Lima, a little bit kolohe, a little bit entertainer, that brought joy to Frank whenever he stood up in front of an audience, even if that audience was only his siblings.
I had 4 others, and they're still alive. The oldest one is 72, I think. She lives in Oakland. My second sister, right under her, is Sandy. She lives in Minnesota. Married, has 3 girls, and then has grandchildren. And my other sister, Pi'ilani, has 2 children, and she lives in Las Vegas, and she's a flight attendant for United.
So 3 girls so far, all living elsewhere. And
then I came along, and then after me was my brother Mark, and Mark is in Ohio. And
so you're the only De Lima child who remained.
I remained here in Hawaii. After the seminary, I came back, and that was it. I started my career, and the career kept me here. And
were they surprised to see what you did for a living? I mean, very few kids grow up saying, I'm going to be a comedian and do it.
I didn't say that.
And
but
you
they
didn't
knew
say it
I
anyway.
was crazy. My sisters, whenever I go visit them, they always say, "Oh, I don't forget how you used to imitate Mrs. Makaiva, or you used to imitate the comedian Johnny Ray on TV." And I said, "Oh, really?" So I said, They said, "Oh yeah, we had a great time." And then I start recalling that there were times, that I can remember. Some stand out more than others. Imitating Chinese, I don't remember at that time, but Mrs. Lee is still alive. And at one visit, she remembers me imitating the Chinese, and they just thought it was the cutest thing.
Did you get in trouble for any of your humor back then?
Because I was shy, because I was, the strictness and when not to, that my parents and the nuns, brought us up with. I never did. I never got scolding.
Was your humor always gentle humor?
Was imitation. The little 3-year-old starting to speak Chinese, and it doesn't make sense, but it sounds close.
But you could do mean-spirited imitations, couldn't you? I mean, you apparently didn't.
I don't know. I don't remember. I remember imitating the Japanese singer. Mr. and Mrs. Yonashige had this radio they used to play every day. The station they used to put on every day.
And they were babysitting you, right?
Koho radio. Oh, no, but next door.
Next
they
door,
were
okay.
old and deaf, yeah, so they blast the thing. So I think when I was in my mother's womb, I heard Radio Koho, you know. And so eventually I started to imitate the jingle, K-O-H-O, 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 Koho, Koho, in Honolulu. And then they would have these guys sing, Watashi, and they were one after another, they would sing, and I don't know what was going on. But after I started imitating it, and their grandson, Grant, was my friend, right? So we'd be climbing the Pumeria tree, and the two of us would start singing, and then it came on TV. When TV came out, oh, and this maybe a sidetrack, but this is fun, but I got punished for that. Okay, I got punished a couple times for doing things, but like every kid. But it wasn't anything to do with humor, but the TV had just come out, and some of the kids in the neighborhood didn't have one yet. And so they only had the waterfall on channel 13, I think it was. I forget what channel. And it would have the waterfall.
That's all day? Just had a waterfall?
All day, waterfall. Just starting out, I think, or whatever. That's all I remember. So I used to tell the kids, oh, you want to come see the waterfall on TV? TV, yeah. You have to bring cuttlefish, or you have to bring one candy, whatever candy I liked. I think it was Tootsie Rolls. I like Tootsie Rolls.
Ooh,
and
combining?
So
Did you combine cuttlefish and Tootsie Rolls same
oh,
time?
yeah, why not?
Sounds good.
And so they would come and they'd present their gift, you know. Oh, at the time, you know, my mom found out. She was furious. She said, you give all that back. And she found out right away, of course.
What was the other time? You said 2 times you got in trouble.
I can't remember the other. Oh, I didn't listen to her, and I wanted to go get the guppies down at the Paoa stream. And I asked my mom, because Dennis, you know, we used to go, you know, here and there together, go fishing down the harbor. And so Dennis had gotten a big mayonnaise jar. And so he had guppies from the Paoa stream. And so I told my mom and dad, I said, I want to go get, you know. And she said, no, you're going to slip on the rock, your foot is going in the water, and there's going to be a sharp object, because people don't care, and they throw anything into the stream, and it comes down, you know, and it gets stuck in the gravel by the rock or whatever, and you're going to get cut, you know, your foot. You're going to cut your foot. And I'm thinking to myself, how does she know the step-by-step what's going to happen? You know how kids are. They don't.
What does my mother know?
Oh, what does she know? You know what I mean? How can anybody predict? Step on a rock, the rock get moss, your foot going to slip, and you can get cut. So I snuck away, and I went.
And you got cut, didn't you? Oh, you did?
First rock I stepped on, I slipped, the foot went in the water, and there was a sharp piece of, kind of roof corrugated iron was stuck in there, and it cut the back of my heel. I still have the scar. At any rate, Mom was already on her way now. So I climbing up the hill, up the bank.
She was on the way to find
from
you?
the house, yeah, because we lived only close.
So she was
her way
on
down,
to you, you mean?
On to me already, and so she came down, and I said, oh, I cut my foot, and she goes, so yeah, I told you. So she I don't know what she had. We grabbed her whatever, and then she wrapped it, and then took me to the doctor, and the doctor gave a shot. And
She said, I told you so.
yeah, and then that night, my father comes home, and he says, so I heard we had a very exciting day. I forget what words but in that. So he said, well, you know what's going to happen now? And I said, yes. So he got this belt, and he said, and he gave me only 2 whacks on the okole. First whack was for not listening, and the second whack was for the doctor bill. I remember that very well.
So what did you learn about relationships from your mom and dad?
You know, as far as dealing with...
Just, you know, any life lessons of seeing them interact as partners?
Oh yeah. They were always supportive of each other, did things together. Whatever Mom was thinking that day, it would happen in the evening. Like, for example, she said, okay, so today if you folks finish your homework, It's a Friday. We're going picnic down the park. I think it was called Queen Surf or something at the time. And oh, that would just, you know, be so exciting. And then Dad come home tired, like he usually is every day. He worked for Hawaiian Electric, and
what did he do for Hawaiian
he
Electric?
started as a young man, and he would be in the construction area where they put up the poles, dig the holes, put up the poles, and then he became the wire man where they put the wires up. And then from there he worked to supervisor, and then he ended up superintendent. He was, you know, just a very hard worker, but he still had the energy to go bowling. And he would take me bowling with him, or take us to picnic, or, you know, stuff like that, and be home right after, and Mom would have cookies or whatever, and everybody would have a snack before, you know, went to sleep. So we did singing together in the parlor. Dad played the ukulele, Mom the piano, and the Mass. Dad belonged to the Holy Name Society. Mom belonged to the Sacred Heart Society. I was Junior Holy Name, and my sisters were Sodality. And Mom and Dad also participated with the Hawaiian Club and helped the Filipino Catholic Club. So we had all of that at Blessed Sacrament Church, and the core of our upbringing was the fact that Blessed Sacrament was our central thing.
Did you ever question spirituality or religion? Did you ever say, you know...
When I was a kid?
Yeah, why should I be a Catholic? You know, did you ever...
Oh, no. It was an automatic thing, and I loved it. And we went to church a lot, you know, like during Lent, we'd go every Friday for the Stations of the Cross.
And you liked going?
I liked
You didn't have
going.
to be told, you got to go.
No, no, no. And then I became altar boy, and so, you know, it was like, you know, the whole thing. Station of the Cross was exciting, you know, and it's sad, but at the time it was exciting for me because, you know, I got to be altar boy and I got to carry the cross. And, you know, those kind of things that kids love to do. They want to be, you know, in on it, you know, and or whatever it is.
How many of us at an early age are absolutely certain on how the rest of our life will play out? Growing up, Frank De Lima wanted to become a priest, knowing full well that the life of a priest would be one of sacrifice, devotion, and more sacrifice. But for a young Catholic growing up in a family guided by faith, there could be no higher calling. And Frank De Lima answered the call.
Not everybody can be a priest. In fact, very few people can. Many are called, few are chosen. And then in 7th grade, I kind of was thinking about it, and the priest came in 8th grade and said, okay, we would like to give you this test, and for the boys who want to take it. And so I took it, but only 30 beds at the seminary. And there were like, statewide, there were like over 100 boys that took the test. So of course the A student's gonna get it. So I didn't make it. I was only a C average student. See, part of my gift was daydreaming. You know, when you're talented like this and your imagination,
yeah.
You don't know how to control it when you're a kid. And so in 1st grade, I was a straight A student. But then things kind of happened after that. And so my grades went down a little bit, but still all right. And then in 8th grade, I had brought it up a little bit, but not enough to make it to the seminary. And then, so I went to Damien. And brother said, I heard you tried for the seminary. Well, live a normal high school life and we'll give you extra work. And then in senior year, you'll be college material. I guarantee it. And then you can take the test again for the seminary if you still feel like doing that. And so, yeah, I got up to a B average. My SAT math was 700, I think, or something like that.
Which is very good.
Yeah. But English was a little bit down, a little bit. But at any rate, so everything worked out, and I went. And I was in the seminary 8 years, but
that's close to finishing.
Almost there.
Did your parents think it was would be a wonderful achievement to become a priest?
Oh yeah, they were very proud when I went to seminary, and they just thought it was the best thing in the world. You know, in those days in the Catholic community, that was
every family wanted to have a priest, right?
Or none. You know.
So the question is, did you find it fulfilling?
It was fulfilling. It was fun. I think it all went, but see, we weren't celibate yet, okay? But we was learning how, and that's why along the way people can drop out and, you know, get married or whatever. But I went to that step of becoming a deacon, and I shouldn't have, but I thought at that point I still could, you know.
Why did you?
Because when you take the vow of celibacy, then, you know, it's like a vow with God. Nothing to do with the Catholic Church, or nothing to do with the bishops or the Pope or anything. But it's still, it's a promise to God that you're gonna, for the rest of your life. And so, but, you know, the church says, well, you know, if you get laicized, you can get married. But that didn't come until, okay, so
laicized means laity, which means civilians, right? Non-clerical.
Yeah, no answers to anybody. You're not part of the part of the church where the hierarchy or the priesthood or anything. You are just a regular person, a Christian. In the audience, okay?
But you did make the vow to God.
I did make the vow to God, and then after that, I lived the life as a deacon.
And what is a deacon? Like a beginning priest?
Deacon is, for example, when you go to become a doctor, the internship.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and you could do something, but not a whole bunch. You can give communion, and you can baptize. That's about it. Yeah, so, but they kept you real busy. So much baptisms and so much, and every Sunday you have to work in communion. But I was also involved with CYO, which was a whole different type of Catholic. You know, that's more the fun part of life, and my ukulele and singing and all that. And so it slowly went into that direction. And so I used to, on the way home from teaching at, I forget where I used to teach religion, I forget. But anyway, on the way home, Ranch House was by Holy Trinity Church down in Kuli'o'o. And so I would stop by and go in, and Ka'ala would be playing music, and they call me up, and I do a few things. Some of the parishioners would get upset, you know, that they find out that I wasn't there instead of at, you know, how come he's going to the Ranch House?
To the nightclub.
Yeah, but it was only a restaurant, for crying out loud. But at the time, open-minded already. The church was already swinging to the other extreme, yeah? So it wasn't a problem, but until I started to think about the fact that I really am enjoying this. And the strictness of the diaconate. And so about a month before, I said, you know what, I don't want to fool myself. I think I better take a break, get into it, and see what happens. And so I took a break. I told them I would like to leave for now.
Were you torn the whole time? Is this what I really should be doing?
It kind of, this kind of, I was never torn. I actually was looking forward to the final step. But then towards the end, realized, it was that last year that I realized I gotta make this decision. All this fun that I'm having, and going to the ranch house and joining Ka'ala and singing on stage after CYO Mass at Port DeRussy, would all go over there, and they would ask me to come up, and then that's when it started to get a little bit difficult. And so I said, I need a break. I got to take a break, because I do not want to commit the rest of my life if it's not fully there. You know, me, I'm one that commits, and when I commit, that's it. You know, in whatever I do in my life.
Did you pray about it?
Oh yeah, I did. And it just kind of went in the direction of leaving for a while, but eventually with Lucille and my big hit Lucille and all that stuff that happened so early in my career, I knew that's where I want to go.
But I never liked Chancel, cause those words were still fresh on my mind. Yeah! What? Lucille, you gonna leave me now? The kids never eat yet. Everybody, mango season. I know my car stay smoking and the stereo stay broken, but wow! Loud, loud. You gonna leave me now? You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucy.
And so, what would have been Father De Lima was back to being just good old Frank De Lima, a comedian who drew on his childhood in Pauoa to create comedy that reflects and celebrates the cultural diversity of Hawaii. On the next Long Story Short, we'll see how Frank's career blossomed and how he uses his talents to teach children about life. On behalf of PBS Hawaii and Long Story Short, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Ahui ho.
For audio and written transcripts of this program and all episodes of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, visit pbshawaii.org.
Because me, I'm scared of my own shadow. My imagination is so unbelievable that, and plus the upbringing of the Portuguese culture, don't whistle in the dark, the devil going to come. You better go sleep at 8 o'clock or the fatzera going to take over your body. Or, trim your fingernails after the sun goes down. Don't sweep the rubbish out the door after the sun goes down. And they put the boom behind the door to frighten you to death, okay? So that's when you're a kid. That and my imagination, everything else. So a lot of things frighten me, So it's a balance. It makes money for me, and I get to help people to laugh, but it also frightens me, this imagination.